You ever notice how some people walk through life like they've been cast in a never-ending soap opera? Someone cuts them off in traffic, personal attack, a friend takes too long to reply, betrayal, the barista messes up their order. But then, there are those rare, almost mystical beings who seem completely unbothered by everything. They move through life like a breeze, barely ruffled by the nonsense the rest of us get tangled up in. Someone insults them, they shrug. Unexpected setback, they adjust. It's almost like they exist on a completely different frequency from the rest of the world. Now here's the real question. What do they know that the rest of us don't? Because let's be real, most people live like human pinballs, bouncing from reaction to reaction, totally at the mercy of everything around them. If the weather is bad, they're miserable. If someone doesn't text back, their self-worth plummets. If a stranger gives them a weird look, they'll spend the next 3 hours analyzing it like a detective solving a crime. And let's be honest, we've all been that person at some point. Maybe not full-time, but enough to know what it feels like to let something completely irrelevant take up way too much space in our head. So what separates the reactive from the untouchable? It's not luck. It's not some inborn gift. It's not because they've mastered their emotions like some Zen monk on a mountaintop. No, it's one simple thing. They've stopped playing a game that was rigged from the start. See, most people go through life with a massive misunderstanding about where their feelings actually come from. They think the outside world is controlling their emotions, when in reality, it's their own interpretation of the world that's doing all the damage. Let's break that down in the simplest way possible. If someone flips you off in traffic, you have two possible reactions. Option A, you take it personally, let it ruin your day, and rant about it for hours. Option B, you shrug, assume they have bigger problems, and keep it moving. Same event. Two completely different experiences. And the only difference? The meaning you gave it. And here's where it gets wild. This applies to literally everything in life. That one harsh comment from a stranger only affects you if you give it weight. That rejection only stings if you let it define you. That bad day only ruins your week if you replay it on a loop like a bad Netflix series. The truth is, most of what bothers people isn't actually happening to them. It's happening in their mind. They're stuck in a loop of reacting instead of deciding what deserves their energy. And once you truly see this, like actually get it, not just in theory, but in real time, that's when everything changes. Because suddenly, the world stops being something that happens to you and starts being something you get to experience on your own terms. Now, the real question is, how do you actually flip this switch? Because once you do, life will never hit the same way again. Let's get into it. Alright, so now you know the secret. It's not what happens to you, it's how you interpret it. But let's be honest, knowing this in theory and actually living it are two completely different things. Because let's face it, when life throws something at you that feels personal, when someone disrespects you, when a situation just straight up feels unfair, it's really easy to forget everything and go back to reacting. So, how do you actually train your mind to become immune to these everyday annoyances? How do you get to that place where nothing and no one can affect you again? It starts with one simple but powerful shift. Stop giving your energy away for free. Most people hand over their peace of mind like it's a promotional giveaway. Some random person online leaves a negative comment. Let's spend 2 hours mentally arguing with them. Someone gives them a weird look in public. Time to overanalyze and rethink every single interaction. A minor inconvenience happens. Well, that's it. The whole day is ruined. It's like running a business and just giving away all your inventory for free. At some point, you have to start charging. You have to start asking yourself, does this person's opinion pay my bills? Will I even remember this situation a week from now? Is this problem really mine? Or am I just taking on someone else's bad energy? Because 90% of the time, the things that stress people out are nothing more than other people's projections. Someone is rude to you? That's their problem. Someone doubts you, that's their limited mindset. Someone disrespects you, that says more about them than it does about you. Think about it. When you react, when you get upset, when you let something take control of your emotions, you're basically saying, "Here, take my peace. I don't need it." But the truth is, your peace of mind is your most valuable currency, and the people who truly win at life, the ones who move through the world unshaken, they've figured out that most things just aren't worth their energy. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When you stop reacting, when you stop engaging with negativity, when you become unshakable, something weird starts happening. The people who used to trigger you suddenly lose their power. The things that used to ruin your day barely register. The world doesn't feel as heavy because you stop carrying things that were never yours to begin with. And once you taste that kind of mental freedom, there's no going back. But there's one more piece to this puzzle. Because there's a way to take this even further, to not just be unaffected by the world, but to actually bend it in your favor. And that's where things get really fun. Let's break it down. Here's the truth. Most people don't actually want control over their emotions. They say they do. They say they want inner peace. But when life throws something annoying their way, they take the bait every single time. Boss sends an annoying email, time to draft a mental resignation letter, phone dies at 1%. Obviously, the universe is conspiring against them. It's almost like people enjoy being controlled by their emotions. They'll say, "I just can't help it. That's just the way I am." But here's the real kicker. The moment you stop reacting, you win. Not just in your personal life, but in everything. Let's break this down. There's a reason why the most powerful people in any situation, whether it's a high-stakes negotiation, a social interaction, or even an argument, are always the ones who stay calm. The moment you lose control of your emotions, you hand over leverage. If someone knows they can trigger you, they own you. If a situation can get under your skin, it controls you. If your emotions are constantly reacting to the world dictates your reality. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine becoming someone who simply doesn't bite the bait anymore. A passive-aggressive comment. You don't even flinch. Someone trying to test you? They get zero reaction. Life throwing unexpected obstacles at you? You adapt and move on. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about refusing to let problems own you. When you master this, people start treating you differently. They don't test you as much. They respect your space. And the best part? You start making decisions based on logic and intention, not on knee-jerk emotional reactions. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you react emotionally, you're operating on autopilot. And the world loves people who are easy to manipulate. Marketing teams, they prey on your impulses. Toxic people, they thrive on getting under your skin. Systems of control, they rely on people who can't detach. You see, when you react, you are predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. But when you stop being easily moved by things, when you become an observer instead of a reactor, suddenly you gain something that 99% of people will never have, true freedom. And it's in that space, where nothing outside of you dictates your internal state, that you start truly living on your own terms. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually implement this? That's where things get even more interesting, because the key to making this shift permanent isn't just about knowing it, it's about rewiring your entire response system. Let's get into that. Alright, so we've established that reacting emotionally hands over your control. But here's the real challenge. How do you actually train yourself to stop reacting? Because let's be honest, if detachment was easy, everyone would be doing it. The truth is, most people don't even realize how conditioned they are to react. From childhood, we've been wired to respond instantly to external stimuli. Someone insults you, you have to defend yourself. A situation frustrates you, you have to vent. It's like living life with an open control panel, where anyone, your boss, a stranger, a social media post, can walk up and push your buttons at any time. But what if you could disable the control panel entirely? This is where emotional immunity comes in. And no, I'm not talking about ignoring emotions or becoming a robot. I'm talking about training your brain to break the cycle of automatic reactions. Step 1. Observe, don't absorb. Most people absorb every situation like a sponge. If someone is stressed around them, they become stressed. If someone is rude to them, they feel personally attacked. Instead, you need to become the observer. Let's say you're at a coffee shop and the barista is having a rough day. She snaps at you for no reason. The average person immediately absorbs this energy. Why is she being rude to me? I didn't do anything wrong. Now their mood is affected. But an observer sees what's happening without absorbing it. Oh, she must be going through something. The event still happened, but the difference? It didn't enter your system. This is detachment in action. You let the world move around you, but not through you. Step 2. Master the pause. Ever notice how every regrettable decision is made in the heat of the moment? That's because emotional reactions bypass logic. They hijack your brain. The fix? Pause before reacting. Someone says something offensive? Pause. Anxiety kicks in? Pause. You feel the urge to argue? Pause. That tiny moment of stillness gives your brain a choice: react automatically or respond intentionally. And that choice, that's where all your power is. Here's a pro trick. Before responding to anything, mentally ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Because 99% of the time, it's not. Step 3. Starve the drama. Drama, whether in relationships, work, or social circles, feeds off of reactions. It's an ecosystem that thrives on emotional responses. Gossip only spreads when people engage. Toxic people only stay when they get a reaction. Arguments only escalate when both sides participate. When you stop feeding the system collapses. Imagine someone tries to pick a fight with you, and instead of reacting, you just smile and move on. They're left completely powerless. Because here's the truth. People who try to provoke you, they're not looking for truth or understanding. They're looking for control. And when you give them nothing, they lose that control. That's why the most dangerous person in any interaction is the one who doesn't take the bait. And once you start doing this, you'll notice something strange. People will begin respecting you more. They won't test you as often. And even those who do, they'll quickly learn that you're not the one to mess with. Because once you master emotional immunity, you become untouchable. Now at this point, you might be thinking, okay, this makes sense in theory, but how do I actually apply this when emotions feel overwhelming? And that's where the final step comes in. Reprogramming the way you process emotions before they even start. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, but what about situations where the emotions are too strong, where detaching feels impossible? That's a valid concern, and it's exactly where most people get stuck. Because let's be real, if you've spent your entire life reacting to things, changing overnight isn't realistic. But here's the key. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about reprogramming the way you process them. Step 1. Train your mind like a muscle. People treat their emotions like wild animals, uncontrollable, unpredictable, and something they just have to deal with. But emotions, like muscles, can be trained. Ever notice how some people stay calm under extreme pressure, while others break down over minor inconveniences? It's not because they were born with some special ability. It's because they've trained their nervous system to respond differently. Your brain has default pathways, patterns it follows based on past experiences. If, for years, your brain has linked stress with panic, that's what it will continue to do. If your brain has linked criticism with defensiveness, that reaction will happen automatically. The trick? Interrupt the pattern. Every time you're about to react emotionally, stop and ask, what if I respond in the opposite way this time? Instead of getting irritated, try smiling. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, stay silent. Instead of panicking, take a deep breath and observe. Your brain will fight you at first. It'll scream, "No, we need to react. This is how we always do it." But if you keep overriding that impulse, eventually your brain will rewire itself. And one day, you'll notice something strange. Situations that used to trigger you don't anymore. The old response just isn't there. That's when you know you're winning. Step 2, control the narrative in your head. Most people don't realize this, but their inner dialogue determines how they feel about everything. So, the next time something feels like it's affecting you, ask yourself, what's the story I'm telling myself about this? Is this interpretation actually useful? Because 90% of the time, it's not. Step 3, emotionally disarm people. Here's a trick that will change your life. When people expect a reaction from you and you give them nothing, it completely throws them off. Ever seen a situation where someone insults another person and instead of getting angry, they just laugh and agree? You're so stubborn. Yeah, it's one of my best traits. You never take anything seriously. I try not to. You really don't care, do you? Nope. That's called emotional aikido, taking someone's negative energy and flipping it on them. When you refuse to be affected, you send a clear message. You don't have control over me. And nothing frustrates people more than realizing their attempts to trigger you aren't working. And guess what? The less reactive you become, the more respected you'll be. Because people test you to see how much control they can have over you. The moment they realize you're untouchable, they back off. At the end of the day, being unshakable isn't about never feeling emotions. It's about not letting them control you. It's about making a choice. Do I let this situation define me, or do I define the situation? Because once you stop reacting to things that don't deserve your energy, you start living on your terms. And that's when life really changes. So, if this resonated with you, hit that like button. Because let's be honest, if you made it this far, you got something out of it. And if you want more content like this, subscribe. Because this is just the beginning. See you in the next one.